Let me tell you something that might sting a little. You've been lied to. Yeah, lied to. You've been told that blaming yourself makes you stronger, that makes you responsible, that makes you better. But what if I told you, is it actually the thing keeping you stuck? Think about it. Every time something goes wrong, you don't just say, that didn't work. You say, I'm the problem. Failed exam? I'm not smart enough. Relationship ended? I'm not good enough. Missed opportunity? I always mess things up. Really? Always? That's not self-awareness. That's self-destruction with good marketing. And today, we're shutting that voice down. Because the moment you stop blaming yourself, your entire life starts shifting. Not slowly, not someday, but immediately. Here's the truth. Nobody tells you blame feels powerful because it gives you the illusion of control. If it's my fault, I can fix it. Sounds logical, right? But here's the twist. Blame doesn't fix anything. It freezes you. It's like trying to run with a backpack full of bricks labeled regret, shame, and what's wrong with me. You're not weak. You're overloaded. And the moment you drop that weight, that disadvantage turns into your biggest strength. Because now you can actually move. Stay with me in the video till the end, and let's start discussing 5 magical changes that happen when you stop blaming yourself. Change 1. Let's start here. Self-blame makes you stupid. Not permanently, relax. But in the moment? Absolutely, because when you're blaming yourself, you're not thinking, you're spiraling. It's like opening 37 tabs in your brain. What if I did this? Why didn't I say that? I always ruin things. Why am I like this? Oh great, now I'm thinking about that embarrassing thing from 5 years ago too. Congratulations, you've officially lost the plot. And here's the problem. Your brain cannot solve problems while it's busy attacking you. It's like trying to fix your phone while smashing it with a hammer. Not very effective, right? Now imagine this instead. You mess up. But instead of attacking yourself, you pause. No drama. No emotional explosion. No I'm the worst human alive speech. Just a pause. And then you ask one simple question. What actually happened? Not what's wrong with me. Not why do I suck. Just facts. Boom. Silence. Clarity. You go from emotional chaos to logical thinking. And logic is where solutions live. This is the moment everything shifts. Because clarity doesn't just help you think better. It helps you see reality as it is, not as your emotions distort it. And most of the time, reality is far less dramatic than the story in your head. You didn't ruin everything. You made one mistake. You're not bad at life. You had one bad moment. Big difference. Look at Simone Biles. At the peak of her career, she stepped back, not because she was weak, but because she was clear. She didn't sit there saying, I'm letting everyone down. I'm a failure. No. She recognized what was happening internally and made a decision that protected her long-term performance. That's clarity. And clarity is powerful because when your mind is clear, you make better decisions. You react less emotionally. You stop overcomplicating simple situations. And here's a little reality check. Most of your stress right now is not coming from your problems. It's coming from how you're thinking about your problems. Let that sink in. So the moment you remove self-blame, you don't just feel better. You think better. And when you think better, you live better. Clarity begins where self-punishment ends. Change 2. Here's where it gets interesting. Blame is not responsibility. Yeah, I know. That sounds illegal. Because most of us grew up thinking the more we blame ourselves, the more mature we are. Like it's some badge of honor. I take full blame. Okay, but what did that actually fix? Nothing. Because blame and responsibility are not the same thing. Blame says, I am the problem. Responsibility says, I can solve the problem. Let me say that again, because this is where everything changes. Blame attacks your identity. Responsibility improves your actions. Blame is emotional. Responsibility is practical. Blame is loud. Responsibility is focused. And guess which one actually moves your life forward? Let's break it down. You mess up at work, send the wrong email, miss a deadline, say something awkward in a meeting. Blame kicks in instantly. Wow, I'm terrible at this. I shouldn't even be here. And now what happens? You shrink, you hesitate, you start overthinking every little thing. Now you're not just dealing with one mistake, you're dealing with fear on top of it. Great, that'll definitely help. But responsibility? Completely different energy. Responsibility says, okay, what went wrong here? Was it poor planning? Lack of communication? Too many distractions? Good. Now you have something you can actually fix. See the shift? One shuts you down, the other builds you up. And here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of people hide behind self-blame because it feels easier than taking real responsibility. Yeah, I said it. Because if you say, I'm just bad at this, you don't have to improve. You don't have to try again. You don't have to risk failing differently next time. It's a weird form of comfort, painful but familiar. Responsibility, on the other hand, that requires effort. It requires honesty. It requires change. But it also gives you power. Look at Oprah Winfrey. She didn't build her life by sitting around thinking, maybe I'm just not good enough. She faced rejection, criticism, setbacks, real ones. But instead of turning inward and attacking herself, she asked, what can I do differently? And then she did it. That's responsibility. That's growth. And here's a little sarcasm for you. If blaming yourself actually improved your life, you'd be unstoppable by now. You've had plenty of practice, haven't you? Exactly. So maybe it's time to try something new. Because responsibility doesn't mean you ignore your mistakes. It means you stop turning them into your identity. You don't say, I am a failure. You say, that failed. Huge difference. One traps you. The other frees you. And once you understand that, you stop wasting energy on guilt and start investing it into progress. Because responsibility builds momentum. And momentum, that's how people actually change their lives. Changer 3. Let's be honest. Most people think confidence comes from winning, from success, from getting everything right. But that's not how it works. Confidence comes from how you treat yourself when you lose, because losing is guaranteed. Messing up, also guaranteed. Oh, those are coming. Don't worry. But destroying yourself after every mistake, that part is optional. And right now, for a lot of people, it's automatic. You mess up, and instantly, of course I did. I'm so bad at this. Why do I even try? It's like your brain has a built-in critic, and it's working overtime with no off switch. And here's what that does to your confidence. It slowly drains it. Not in one big moment, but in small repeated hits, like a leak you ignore until the whole system collapses. Because confidence isn't just built by what happens to you. It's built by what you say to yourself about what happens to you. Let's look at the cycle most people are stuck in. Mistake of blame, chain 5. Fear, chain 5. Fear of hesitation, chain more mistakes. It's a loop, a very efficient, very destructive loop. And the worst part? It feels real. It feels logical, but it's not. It's conditioning. Now here's the shift. Remove blame and watch what happens. Mistake quoi, learn quoi, adjust ma, move forward. That's it. No drama, no identity crisis. No, I need to rethink my entire existence. Just progress. And suddenly, you start trusting yourself again. Not because you're perfect, but because you know you won't tear yourself apart when things go wrong. That's real confidence. It's quiet. It's steady. It doesn't panic. Look at Michael Jordan. Everyone talks about his wins, the championships, the highlights. But what built his confidence? The misses, the failures, the games he lost. Now imagine, just imagine. After every missed shot, he said, yep, that's it, I'm done. Clearly not built for this. We wouldn't be talking about him right now. We'd be talking about someone else. Because greatness isn't about avoiding failure. It's about refusing to let failure define you. And here's something most people don't realize. Confidence doesn't come from always knowing what to do. It comes from knowing you'll figure it out, that you'll adapt, that you'll recover. And you can't build that belief if every mistake turns into a self-attack. Let me put it this way. If every time you fall, you also punch yourself, how long do you think you'll keep getting up? Exactly. So when you remove self-blame, you're not becoming soft. You're becoming sustainable. You're giving yourself the ability to keep going, to try again, to improve without fear. And suddenly, you take more risks. You speak up more. You stop overthinking every little move. Why? Because the pressure is gone. You're no longer performing under the threat of your own criticism. You're operating with support from yourself. And that changes everything. Because at the end of the day, confidence isn't built in your best moments. It's built in the moments where things go wrong. And you decide, I'm still on my own side. That's the moment it starts rebuilding. Stronger than before. Change 4. This one hits deep. The way you treat yourself teaches people how to treat you. Read that again. Because whether you realize it or not, you are constantly training people on how to show up in your life. And it starts with how you show up for yourself. If you constantly blame yourself, you shrink. You second-guess everything you say. You replay conversations like it's a crime investigation. You apologize for things that don't even need an apology. Someone bumps into you, and somehow you're like, sorry. My existence was in your way. Relax. You start over-explaining, over-giving, over-tolerating. Why? Because deep down, there's this quiet belief, I'm probably the problem anyway. And that belief, it leaks into everything. You hesitate to speak your mind. You avoid conflict even when it matters. You say yes when you desperately want to say no. And here's the uncomfortable part. People pick up on that, not consciously, not always. But they feel it. They feel the lack of boundaries. They feel the uncertainty. They feel that you don't fully stand behind yourself. And human nature being what it is, some people will step up and respect you, but others, they'll take advantage. Not always in obvious ways. Sometimes it's subtle. They interrupt you more. They dismiss your opinions. They expect more from you while giving less in return. And you sit there thinking, why does this keep happening to me? It's not random, it's patterned. But here's the shift. When you stop blaming yourself, you stop shrinking. You stop assuming you're wrong by default. You start listening to yourself. And suddenly you speak differently. Not louder, just clearer. You say things like, I don't agree with that. That doesn't work for me. I need some time. No apology, no long explanation, no guilt, just clarity. And clarity commands respect. Look at Emma Watson. She's known not just for her success, but for her boundaries, her voice, her self-respect. That didn't come from trying to please everyone. It came from knowing her worth and standing by it. And let's be real for a second. When you stop blaming yourself, something else happens. You stop tolerating nonsense. Yeah, I said it. You stop entertaining toxic behavior. You stop chasing people who give you the bare minimum. You stop bending over backward for approval that never comes. Because now, you're not trying to earn your place in people's lives. You already know you deserve to be there. And here's a little humor for you. If someone else talked to you the way you talk to yourself, constant criticism, zero patience, always pointing out flaws, you'd block them in 2 minutes. No explanation, no closure speech, just gone. So why are you tolerating that voice internally? Why are you keeping that same energy inside your own head? It doesn't make sense. And the moment you change that internal voice, everything external starts shifting too. Because confidence in relationships doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being grounded. From knowing, I'm not perfect, but I'm not the problem all the time either. That balance, that's emotional maturity. And here's the powerful part. When you stop blaming yourself, you don't just improve your relationships with others. You repair the most important one, the relationship with yourself. And once that's solid, everything else becomes easier, cleaner, healthier. Because now you're not showing up desperate for validation. You're showing up with self-respect. And people feel that immediately. Change 5. Here it is. The biggest shift of all. Self-blame keeps you stuck in the past. Not sometimes, not occasionally, consistently. Because every time you blame yourself, you reopen the same moment. You replay it. You reanalyze it. You relive it. Like your brain is directing a full documentary called Everything You Did Wrong. And guess what? It has unlimited replays. No new scenes. No new outcomes. Just the same old mistakes in HD. And while that's happening, life is moving forward. Opportunities are passing. People are growing. Time is doing what it always does, moving. But you're mentally parked in something that already happened. Let me ask you something. How are you supposed to build a better future when your mind keeps dragging you back to the past? Because self-blame doesn't just remind you of what happened. It convinces you that it defines you. That's just who I am. I always mess things up. I never get it right. And now it's not just a memory anymore. It's an identity. And once something becomes your identity, you stop trying to change it. Because why would you? You've already decided it's permanent. But here's the truth. It's not permanent. It's practiced. You just repeated that story so many times, it feels real. Now here's where everything shifts. You don't need to erase the past. You just need to stop living in it. Let it exist. Let it be what it was. A moment, a mistake, a lesson, not a life sentence. Because the only thing you actually need from the past is the lesson, not the guilt, not the shame. Not the emotional punishment, just the lesson. Everything else? That's excess baggage. And you've been carrying it for way too long. Look at Selena Gomez. She's been through public scrutiny, personal struggles, and intense pressure. Imagine if she stayed stuck in every mistake, every criticism, every headline. She wouldn't be moving forward. But she chose growth. She chose healing. She chose to keep going, even when it wasn't perfect. And that's the difference. Moving forward isn't about having a clean past. It's about having the courage to not let your past control your next step. And let's be real. Some of you are waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel better, waiting to feel worthy again. But here's the problem. That moment doesn't come while you're blaming yourself, because blame keeps you stuck and not enough. So instead of waiting, move. Messy, imperfect, uncertain, move anyway. Because progress doesn't require perfection, it requires motion. Let me put it like this. If you trip while walking, do you just stay on the ground forever? No. You get up. Maybe you laugh, maybe you're annoyed, but you keep going. Now imagine if every time you tripped, you sat there and said, wow, this proves I shouldn't walk anymore. Sounds ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what self-blame does. It turns temporary setbacks into permanent conclusions. And that's what keeps people stuck for years. Not a lack of ability, not a lack of opportunity, but lack of movement. So here's your shift. Stop putting yourself on trial. Stop replaying the same mistakes like they're evidence against you. You're not in a courtroom. You're in a life that's still unfolding. And the moment you let go of that constant self-judgment, you create space. Space to grow, space to try again, space to become something new. Because forward is the only direction that changes your life. Not backward, not what if, not if only. Forward. And the moment you stop blaming yourself, you don't just think about moving forward, you actually do it. Step by step, day by day, without dragging your past behind you like a chain. And that's freedom. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, my friends, for such upcoming powerful videos.